waiting on a quorum. I do know that Pat has work obligations. A few others have work obligations. We need a quorum. Oh, there's Chris. At least. Okay. I expect Sean.
Blue sky timer.
Just Chris and Sean on the only Chris and Sean on.
Yep, they're there.
Gio, are you blue sky timer? Blue sky? Are you blue sky timer? Is that your? Someone's trying to get into the exec. Oh, blue sky.
No, I'm not.
All right, well, I want to get.
Yep.
Cool.
ICSD communications.
Got you, bro.
And then there were three. We're too shy of a. Is my math right? Yeah. Too shy of a quorum.
Nicole left the curriculum meeting and are on their way over.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be in person.
Yeah, they said they Nicole.
There's Nicole.
That was quick.
Oh, that was
Impressive.
That's my daughter's excuse when we get to Floyd in like 2 minutes before. Right there, and I'm like, okay.
You got here faster to get from my office.
At least Dr. Brown, Nicole was not locked out of the building. She wanted to come. We locked me out.
They can keep the candle the children over.
We're just not used to it, I think.
We pretend not to be used to it.
Should we record? If you're not, we have a part of you to work with.
If we can get Eldred or Moira had something come up, I thought she was going to be virtual.
Or doing virtually. If we get from,
I like the reading, but I tune in, hear about what's going on. It's interesting. I think that helps for a lot of kids.
Is it officially Thanksgiving break?
is
I feel like I'm supposed to know, and I never know. My kids are like, "You're on the board." I'm like, "Oh, look at that."
Kids are done. No school tomorrow. Right?
That's right.
And we are open for business for a board meeting, but we don't have a quorum, so we're not official yet. So once we do have a quorum, then we can move on. All right. So now we have 5. So we do have a quorum, and Eldred will be joining us shortly. There he is, and we do have an executive session, and Chris, are you live? Do you want to move us into exec? I asked lightly.
I am live, and I don't have everything in front of me. I apologize, but I move that we enter into executive session to discuss school district matters, matters of employment, recognition, retention, and review of specific employees.
Thanks, Chris. That's very good.
My apologies. A quick amendment to that motion is to also discuss litigation.
Thank you, Sean.
Perfect. And seconded by Eldred and Moira. Moira's on with us too. So Tricia, please call the roll and we'll get started.
Rob Ainsley,
Yes.
Erin Croy,
Yes.
Sean Eversley Bradwell,
Yes.
Eldred Harris,
Yes.
Nicole Lefebvre,
Yes.
Moira Lang,
Yes.
Chris Malcolm.
Yes.
Perfect, very good. We'll be moving to exec session. Those of us here will be moving into the other room, and we'll be back shortly.
All right, any obligations?
So I've been told now, Aldrin.
So we are going to begin with the receiving and hearing of public comments and, ooh, look at this. I know this. So we always start by saying, if we mess someone's name up, be kind to us. But it looks like the first two people on the list are my good friend Devin Buckley and her wonderful son Thane.
I'm used to announcing myself through masks, so I hope you can hear me.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I guess I kind of wanted to start with a question and wondering if there is a protocol in place for students who are enrolled into the school and are not yet vaccinated. Do we know that we have a policy for this, or is this just willy-nilly? Because it really feels like nobody knows what is going on, and different people are making executive decisions and removing him from school and calling my doctor and changing his appointments and getting him shots when he's not supposed to get them. So it's been a complete mess. And he's only been in school for maybe 4 weeks out of the entire year because of it. So is there a yes or a no to that question?
Let's make sure we understand the question correctly.
Well, I'm wondering if there's a policy for welcoming students into the school district or into the high school who are yet to be vaccinated.
Vaccinated for all things or vaccinated for
So
COVID?
Thane was unvaccinated. And we were removed from school in 2018, right, because of the law change. And I had to put my beliefs aside and allow him to come to school and take these shots. And, you know, I can go through the timeline of what we've been through, it's not been fun. But,
Well, if we could, we can help out a little bit, since
yeah, I
we're-
mean, first of all, I think
But
there
there's
needs
no-
to be a protocol.
there is no statewide mandate that all children be vaccinated.
Yes, there
We
is.
don't know what vaccination she's talking about.
All childhood vaccinations.
Well, if
I'm
you're
not
talking
about
all,
that.
that's different, but if you're talking the COVID vaccine.
No, I mean from, you know, the law that was changed in like 2018
Change to,
say that children cannot attend school in New York State unless they have the childhood vaccination.
right, as far as I know, that has not been changed. That is the law.
Right, but I'm asking if this school district, from that moment, ever created a policy on how to welcome in students who are just beginning to get their vaccinations.
I think I understand the question.
Rob, can I clarify? The
Why
change,
are-
yeah, sorry. The change that she's talking about is when New York State dropped religious exemptions. So now the only exemption is for medical. And the state created an extensive system for gaining a medical exemption. As for a policy in terms of welcoming students into schools when they start to get their vaccinations, I would say that a lot of the bureaucracy begins with the school nurses who check through the records about when certain vaccinations have been given and when the next doses should be given. And so I would certainly think that one of the problems that we would be facing this year is with COVID, our nurses are entirely, they're overwhelmed. And so some of the things that might have occurred in terms of the handling of students who are just getting vaccinated, probably there's been a lot of lag time and probably lack of communication.
That is true. So lag time also includes people who are really quick to remove a student from school. So our experience, basically, I would like to go through the timeline, it's been really interesting. So first, on September 5th, he tested positive for COVID and we had to quarantine before he could even start. We had him registered before that. The nurses, I've been in communication with them since August, and they told me I just needed a plan from the doctor. Get the plan from the doctor, and we're polishing the plan from the doctor. The doctor still didn't put enough info. We get more info, we get that in, they say it's approved. They say he can go to school. So then September 14th, he starts going to school. And on the 23rd or 4th, I got a phone call from Jackie Richardson saying that if he didn't, have all of the first shots, that he would have to be removed the next day. And I responded, this was like in the afternoon, the day before they want to remove him from school. So I have not even 24 hours to think about it or make a plan. Okay, so this is the first thing I'm hearing, that what I heard before isn't true. Tomorrow he has to have 8 shots or he can't go to school. I'm like, well, that's not gonna happen. First of all, even if I wanted it to happen, I couldn't get the appointments. So I replied and I said, well, we need other people on this conversation. We need administration, we need nurses. I need proof that this is how this is going. I don't want one person's word that my kid can't go to school tomorrow. So he goes to school and then they kick him out. I don't know, Jackie, I think, called me at 3 p.m. and told me he had to leave, right? School's over at like 3:45. So I'm like all nervous and I run down there to go pick him up. And nobody knows that he's being removed from school. So now I'm kicking my son out of school. Nobody else did it. I did it. He's coming out going, what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. This is insane. So then, that was on the 25th of September. So on the 27th, I start sending emails to lots of people, including Jason Trumbull, who I've never heard from, and Carrie Berg, and Sarah Strickgards. And I didn't get anything till like 9 p.m. on the 27th from Carrie Berg that told me, that he could be removed from school if he didn't get the first of every shot, which was something that I knew from being informed about this policy, just hoping that he wasn't going to be removed from school and also expecting that there would be some clear communication, which there hasn't been yet. So he's staying out of school until he gets the rest of his shots. And I'm going 2 at a time, because I don't think we need to bombard anybody's body with 15 vaccinations at once. So then I'm told, so he's home all the way till October 18th. On October 8th, I get a letter that's signed by like 4 people that's like, oh, he has all these unexcused absences. He's great, they're gonna really suffer. We need a plan for him, I'm like, yeah, we do. So I call Jason Trumbull, who's the main signature on there, get no response, get no call back. I call Karen Jordan, I get a call back, she's extremely sweet, extremely concerned, wants to set up a team meeting. So we do that when he gets back to school, which we did on the 21st, when they also gave me his progress report, which says all of these absences are unexcused, and he now has grades that are 55 to 75 in like every class. I'm like, well, of course he does, he couldn't go to school. Like, what are we supposed to do? We're doing our best, he's on campus doing his stuff. So then I find out finally there that these absences can't be excused, and everybody up to this point has been saying it's not meant to be a punishment. It's not meant to be a punishment. Well, it's being delivered like a punishment. He's being kicked out of school and his absences are not excused. So that's feeling like a punishment to us. It doesn't feel like a gentle, we're just waiting for you to get vaccinated. So it goes on and it gets worse. So the 26th, I believe is a Wednesday, after, like 4 p.m., I get another email that says, I can read it. I don't think I even saw it until 7:30 at night, right? And it's basically saying that he needs to have his MMR the next day. Again, I'm like, I don't have time to set up an appointment. You gotta be kidding me. He's going to school, and nobody ever told me he needed his second shot in a certain timeline, right? So I found out through the state information that Carrie Burke is giving me, that you cannot kick a kid out of school if they've had the first of every shot in their own. So that's what we're going on, right? And now I'm getting told that no, that's not the case. You need a second MMR. And that's like the briefest amount of time you can have between the 2 shots. No, longevity over here. Nobody's told me that there's this deadline, right? So now they're saying the briefest interval is what you have to go by, and you have a 2-week grace period. But I don't find this out until the day before the 2-week grace period is over. Plus, they were wrong. Because you can't do live vaccines in a certain amount of time. And now this is the nurse who's making the wrong decision, who's kicking my kid out of school. And then we had an appointment the next day, which was gonna be for titers to see if he could prove immunity and not get more shots. Well, we go there to get the titers drawn, and the nurses have called the doctor. The doctor's got the MMR shot ready. We walk in there, they've got it all ready, they've got his thing out because they don't want him to be kicked out of school. So he gets an MMR at the wrong time and it doesn't count. So now he's had an extra shot that he didn't need and doesn't count. When I don't even want him to get these. And he still couldn't go to school because he still needed his hepatitis B. So Monday we find out he still can't go to school. Right? So I'm like, okay, I'll give him another week before I give him another shot, because now he's got 3 vaccines that don't count on a Friday. So we have another appointment the next Friday to get another shot. So we get that one. And then he can go back to school. So that was the beginning of November. And then November 1st, and I'm emailing like 5 people and I'm asking, can you be clear with me? I don't know what is going on and this is cruel. I would feel like we're completely being punished and misused and mistreated. And just different people are making executive decisions. So then he goes to the nurse that week, he goes back on Thursday for a sprained ankle, and then the nurses see him and they're ready to kick him out of school again. Well, that was that day, the day before the MMR. So, I don't even remember when I found out the MMR wouldn't count, and I can't
But I
find
think,
any.
you know, we appreciate the timeline. We certainly get the idea.
Well, here we are.
We can't, we're not gonna be able to fix everything here tonight.
I get
So
that.
Yeah,
I think there's-
I got a message from.
I just feel like it needs to be known how difficult this has been. And I'm very willing to sit with everybody. I've been very willing to have face-to-face conversations, have phone calls. People don't call me back. Nobody's setting up appointments to meet with me except for Karen Jordan. And, you know, I would sit with people and help, you know, devise a protocol so that this doesn't happen to other students, because it's gonna happen. This happens all the time now, where these parents don't want to vaccinate their children, but their kids wanna go to high school, and then you have to meet this protocol that's unclear. I mean, and then they, you know, with that 2-week grace period thing, I found that out the day after my kid got kicked out of school. I got no
right,
information about that before.
so we appreciate that. There will have to be,
Yeah, our colleague, Dr. Eversley Bravo chimed in, he runs the policy committee. That you probably haven't come across him, but he's not feeling too great because of a booster shot himself tonight, but he did send me a message saying that we'll put this on the next public agenda and have a more open conversation about it. Yeah, I can see your point. After that decision, you're right, there probably are kids now coming into the public school system at the secondary level for the first time who haven't had any of these shots in there. I can see the challenges, from here from multiple perspectives, so yeah, we'll bring you back and we'll have a deeper conversation. I don't think we have a policy on the books to address this situation. Because for us, it's good.
Right, so then you've got me as a parent who's trying to do the right thing for him, the right thing for you guys, and I feel like we can't do anything right, you know? So it's been a struggle, but, you know, we're grateful for the education, he's grateful for being a part of.
But we'll try to deal with it, and I will take you up on your offer to help us walk through this fire.
I will be there. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So
I don't
thank
know,
you for
Dane
that.
also took 3 minutes, I don't know if I took his 3 minutes.
Dane, is there something you want to talk to us about? Go for it.
she covered this.
All right.
I
All right,
just,
so,
want
Go
to,
ahead.
Sean is indicating that it will be on the next policy committee meeting agenda, and policy committee meets the first Tuesday of every month. So that would be December 7th, I think. And at 5 o'clock, and it's all virtual. So you can jump into that meeting when we talk about this.
Okay, well, I appreciate you.
And it's more free flowing and back and forth. That's where we get the work done, the sausage made. But we look forward to getting through this and getting to school every day, and hopefully that'll be soon. And so whatever that can be done in the interim of a policy that is eventually written and implemented, we need to get kids in school.
Yeah, in the short term, I'm gonna leave it to our fearless leader, Dr. Brown, to come up with suggestions to work with Gary, see what we can do now. Figure out stopgap
Yeah, we're
measures,
still in the
not
middle
have
of
you
it, we're
going
not done.
crazy.
And right now, it's, the nurse is now emailing him, and I've been asking, 5 different administrators to communicate with me, and I'm no longer getting any emails, they're just communicating, or my doctor. I'm getting like completely jumped over, and I'm sure they can tell I'm upset, but I think that's okay. I think I'm allowed to be upset.
All right, thank you. So we're gonna move on and go to the next public commenter, who is Miss Sandy Wold.
Yes,
I believe that's W-O-L-D. Hello.
Hi.
Sandy.
Is it okay to sit at that table, cause I need a table
Sure.
to put my
Since
papers
I can't
out?
even see you yet, come on down.
You know what, it's EUA, says that we can't mandate masks. For that,
I would really appreciate
you know what, I'm 6 feet apart from you, so I think that's 6 feet, right?
Ms. Wold, I just want to remind you that you have 3 minutes to speak. And due to this being a school, you are required to wear a mask.
I would like to be able to speak freely on the matter, this really important matter. That I sent you all the board members 2 weeks ago, I sent you an NOL, it's called a notice of liability, and I've gotten no response. Okay, so this is a matter of life and death. I'm talking about, what I wanna talk about today are the ingredients are not being fully disclosed to the public. There's not adequate informed consent, so this is a violation of Nuremberg Code. Okay, and also what I noticed on the
Yes, well, that
website,
may be true, but,
and please
So
let me
let's,
finish, I only have 3 minutes.
no, I'm gonna stop.
No, I need to finish, so,
Actually, no, you're
No,
not.
you
yeah,
don't. No, you don't.
Because
this
we
is a
control-
Nuremberg Code violation, the school board is
Sandy,
shutting
we
me down right
control-
now,
Exactly.
not letting me talk about the ingredients that are
If you
toxic.
put
These ingredients include polyethylene
if you put a mask
glycol.
on, you can talk for 3 minutes.
Alright, I'll put on a mask.
Could you record?
You can move if you don't want to be in there.
We appreciate it, thank you.
You can have your 3 minutes, and if you want to point that directly at you and not at others in the room, that would be great.
Was this being broadcasted? So it's a public meeting, and I can do it even here I want.
You can't use images of other people without their permission.
It's a public meeting.
Minors are not,
You're
And
minors.
we're not allowed.
And you're using up your 3 minutes. I suggest
I
you,
need to start over because I got interrupted.
You're not allowed to allow minors.
So I'm trying to tell the
without
public
their
about
permission
the
or their
ingredients in
parents'
the Pfizer vaccine, and so polyethylene glycol is one of them. And the consequence of polyethylene glycol involves one of the many side effects that are not disclosed by Pfizer, and they're not disclosed by the CDC, which the Ithaca City School District
parents.
has on its website. Excuse me, don't interrupt me. So, here are the ingredients, or I'm gonna tell you the ingredients, but first the side effects that are not mentioned on the CDC. They include the following: Guillain-Barré syndrome, acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, transverse myelitis, encephalitis, convulsions, seizures, stroke, narcolepsy, cataplexy, anaphylaxis, acute myocardial infarction, myocarditis, pericarditis, autoimmune disease, death, thrombocytopenia, venous thromboembolism, Kawasaki disease. And if you go to the VAERS site, go to the, it's the site on the CDC. They are collecting data of children who are dying. They can die within days of the Pfizer vaccine. It's called the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, okay? So you go there, and this doctor wrote a letter to the FDA, CVERS committee in June. You can look at her docket number. And it's all printed out. I'm gonna read you a couple. 17-year-old had the Pfizer vaccine March 8th, 2021. Went to the ER 7 days later on March 17th, and she had a heart attack. 17 years old, heart attack. Okay, there's not just one, like these go on and on. Children are having strokes. These are 17-year-olds having strokes shortly, within days or weeks after their second vaccination. There's cardiac arrest, chest pain, death. Oh, another one, child number 9, Guillain-Barré syndrome. He had blurry vision, dizziness, balance difficulty, cranial nerve palsy, and they diagnosed him as Miller-Fisher syndrome variant. Okay, here's insufficient blood flow called Ischemic Cerebral Infarction. 16-year-old had a stroke. Okay, there are doctors all over the world who are being silenced. They're trying to alert the public that this vaccine will cause blood clots and strokes and leaky blood vessels. This is another 16-year-old. It says here in the report, acute infarct of right internal capsule or right basal ganglia, acute infarct, which means a stroke. And then 16-year-old, another one, the mother reported. Last one, there is a person, she is self-reporting, looks to be about 16 years old. She said the day after the vaccine, I felt very weak and fatigued. On April 7th, a couple days later, on April 9th, I developed a fever. A few days after that, my muscles started twitching and I haven't stopped. I feel like something's crawling under my skin. Then she's having muscle convulsions as well. This is all from the VAERS system, and that disorder that she described with the skin crawling is actually, it's got a name. I found it on a website and I can't find it right now.
That was the last example.
I understand, but 3 minutes for the lives of these thousands of children that you are encouraging on the website to have a vaccine. These are children, they don't even know what they're allergic to. Yeah, they're too young. This polyethylene glycol will cause that skin crawling thing where they feel like something is under their skin.
We appreciate your.
That is the reaction.
We appreciate
I
your
understand,
passion
but
and
you know what?
enthusiasm
DARPA
for
is
speaking
behind
out.
this too, and
You were
this
speaking
COVID
to
test.
the wrong body. Go to the state of New York and tell them
No,
not
you all
to.
are responsible because you're not doing your research. You're not listening to me. I sent you a letter. And this is informed consent at Gmail if you wanna write, if you've got some side effects. Nobody's keeping track of who's dying here locally. If you do a search on the VAERS report, you can only do it by state. You don't even know if it's who's dying or who's having a vaccine injury. And the FDA is not responsible. They've been made so that they can't be sued for any of this. So we have to work at the local level.
We thank you for the information and for coming to speak to us, and thank you for your courage and speaking truth to power.
Yeah, well, I really hope for your soul's sake that you all look into your souls, like where do you want your souls to go at the end of this life?
Okay,
Because when you're making
we're done.
decisions like this,
We're done.
you're
I am
making,
done.
I know you are, and
You
you wagged
are-
your finger at me the last time I was here, you remember?
So thank you for the information. We will continue to,
Thank you for not wagging your finger at me this time.
we will continue.
I don't recall what you're referring to and appreciate stopping by. What else do we have, Eldred?
Continue to take the various federal, state regulations under consideration, and do what we have to do, and try and do it in a way that's most protective of our rights. So thank you. The last person who looks to be signed up is Jessica Stein. Not familiar with that? All right, so that seems to be the end of the public comment period. Are there any
Well, Eldred, there's been a fair amount of board responses so far, so let's just slide right to the students.
Right. Here we are, students, delegations. We start with.
Oh, we'll go with LACS.
We'll start with you. Let's
Absolutely.
give you the floor.
Awesome. I'm here on behalf of ICS, our quarter is officially over, our self-reflection is submitted, we have gotten student feedback. The students are currently processing. Our student government is live on the network. We are hosting our weekly meetings on different topics. Our most recent topics have been morning meetings, which is the old system we had of during Mondays and Fridays in between a passing period. The time period we extended till 10 minutes instead of our usual 5 to have the school meet and discuss more announcements in that kind of situation of announcements of getting student fundraising, student democracy, student issues to the whole school through a form of talking to people. We had a proposal to bring that back because we stopped that system in 2018 and students were encouraged to talk about it once again. That meeting went well. It's currently going on staff if that will pass to our student body. We also had a meeting regarding our lunch system of when certain students are let out of lunch. Currently, in the middle school and sixth grade students are let out 5 to 10 minutes early compared to the rest of the school. And there's a meeting discussing that, and if that is a system that we want to upkeep, that has not yet been voted on. Our schedule changed this year. Instead of having ASMs or all school meetings during first period has been changed to automatically have the system start second period and then go down the list because of our busing issue of students not being able to arrive on time. We'd like to hopefully be able to make that decision to bring first period meetings back, but our busing is still somewhat of an issue for us. And students are happy about Thanksgiving break. We're happy to have that time off. And yeah, our student body is running well. That is what I have to say under ICS.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, in high school.
Over at IHS, as the Thanksgiving break nears, student activities have ramped up with much success. Winter sports are starting as the first building in the fall, and in addition, IHS's own small UN team was best small delegation at a statewide competition in Rochester. In addition to 8 members of the small UN team, winning individual awards there as well. Cross country got 8th at a regional competition, and our cheerleading team won regionals as well. In addition to student activities, the wheels of student government are turning as they should. Elections for class representatives, the student councils have started, which is a promising development for student involvement in the local school community. And speaking of school community, work between the reps to the board and the school administration is going well. Acting as the voice of the student body, the reps to the board are working with Mr. Trumbull to tackle student concerns about lunches, scheduling, and senior hearings.
As you all know, 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, November 11th, multiple ICSD schools were forced to undergo emergency lockdown and shelter in places due to a shooting that happened in Northside, which is near IHS. During the course of this process at IHS, many students were terrified that all sorts of situations would unfold. For example, a school shooter. Students were hunched down in the corners of the classrooms, some even in storage spaces for as long as 20 minutes, frantically texting their parents, friends, checking social media and news outlets to receive any inkling of news or information that would ease their minds. The day after, many students were still in shock and in varying levels of emotional and mental states. We are glad that we understand that a lot of what happened that day was outside of the district or even building administration control. However, we are concerned by the lack of coordinated response in the district and between all of the affected buildings. We also know that it has been a long time since the emergency response protocol has been updated, and we are wondering what the district does to ensure proper and coordinated communication and collaboration between buildings in order to handle emergencies as safely as possible.
For the note, we've been really glad to see the weekly COVID screening testing be implemented in IHS over the last 2 weeks. And we're very encouraged by the fact that it seems like many students are getting tested. However, we still have a few questions about the rollout of these tests. So we've seen firsthand the tests being given out at IHS, but we're wondering how the rollout is going at all the other schools, especially the elementary schools where we know it's so crucial. We were also told that students that had signed up would receive emails telling them when to go get tested, but students have not been getting these emails. Another thing is we are wondering if there's a way for the public characteristics of these test results, such as positivity rates, etc. And what happens when a student tests positive through this screening program. Is a positive test through this program enough to trigger a response to a COVID case in a school, or must the student get a positive test from Thomas County Health Department as well? Yeah, that's all for today.
Thanks, Guy, and board responses, but I will just point out that the number one item on the agenda when we get to school district business is COVID-19 screening and symptomatic testing update. So we're going to address that in a few minutes. And just to clarify, the morning meetings at LECS they went on for a long time. They've stopped. Just clarify what's replaced that, or what's.
The system that would come back is one of the original versions of morning meeting because of our actually for our project time period of Thursdays. This would be, instead of doing it Monday, Friday, this would be the system of there'd be a 10-minute meeting held, and it's unclear how many rooms because of our COVID capacity. And it would be where students were allowed to come up to the microphone and speak out their announcements. This would be a system that was one of the original forms of it, and that is what would be coming back, not our alternate forms before it got.
Cool, thanks. I was trying to follow what these things on, and it's not always easy to appreciate it. Eldred, others, any questions? Lauren? Responses?
I just want to say thank you. And I also want to say y'all, thank you for handling public comments really well. From what I saw on this end, I'm always so appreciative, and I don't think proud is the right word, but impressed is the right word. I'm always so impressed with y'all. So thank you.
Being good, or?
I just wanted to comment, Grace, your point about the extremely disturbing day that you pointed out. I think our whole community learned some valuable lessons about the need for consistent, valuable, and measured information. At the board level, our superintendent, you think he'd be privy to a higher level of information during that kind of situation? It's not true. Right? We all receive the same message. So I think we do need to do some serious reflection, right? And have conversations with governance and governance bodies, or leaders for leaders, and figure out a better way. I was extremely frustrated to get messages that said, well, you all know what we saw, right? And some of the information was in conflict. So, and I'm sure that there was some legitimate confusion about the distinction between what happened that day and what had happened the previous couple of days. Right? So, thank goodness this was a test without any major consequences, but we have to learn from this as a school community and as a community as a whole, because I think there are lots of people saying what happened was just unacceptable.
Thanks, Albert. If nothing else, if we could, thanks everyone again, thanks students, FI and LACS. As always, if we just get through the consent agenda, perhaps with enough people to vote on it, that would be great. Hopefully Sean is still hanging in there. Eldred, you're right here. Do you want to just move the consent agenda and get Moira to?
Yep, I move the approval of the consent agenda, November 23rd, 2021. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Moira. Elder and I are tag teaming the meeting tonight, which is good. I appreciate that.
Any discussion needed? Any questions on any particular items?
I don't, we'll just keep going through. And
pretty straightforward.
Yep, I believe so.
So I get to say the magic words? Tricia, call the roll. Ooh, the power.
Rob Ainsley,
Yes,
Erin Coyle,
many times yes.
Yes.
Sean Eversley Bradwell,
Yes.
Oh, good, thank you.
Eldred Harris,
Yes.
Moira Lang.
Yes.
Very good, we have her 5, and Dr. Brown, you can choose whoever you want to address as the leading the meeting today, but Dr. Brown, it's okay, it's all you, and we'll
Thank you for the opportunity, Ms. Ainsley.
we appreciate the help leading the meeting today.
Well, I wish to get to Ms. Burke and the updates on surveillance testing. I do wish to take a moment to revisit the situation that occurred a few weeks ago, and thank you, Grace, for bringing up the questions and noting, yes, there's a need for a more coordinated response. I met with Michael Stipley today, who is the new Tompkins County Director of Emergency Response. And I anticipate hopefully a future board agenda item where we bring him in to talk about how in situations like that one, hopefully we'll never have an unprecedented situation like that again. First time in my career, we had multiple buildings in lockdown and a potentially active shooter near a school ground. That's unique. But when we have emergency situations, what do we do to coordinate efforts? What I also learned is that there were multiple law enforcement agencies interacting and responding to a situation, which is something that our community learned we need to do better about coordinating the response. And I also know for folks, and I've shared this over last week, like other administrators in our school district, we were on lockdown too. When we're told to go into lockdown by law enforcement, we go into lockdown. And the questions about lockdown versus shelter in place, hold in place, who releases, those are training things that we internally can handle. But please know, for anyone who's listening, for the folks in the room, when we're in lockdown, the primary responsibility for me and the other administrators is to keep young people safe. While I would love to live tweet and to share information out, that's just secondary priority. And particularly when we actually have no idea what's happening. Because also when we're in lockdown, there were folks who were getting updates via the media or from other folks who were following the situation who quite frankly knew more than us. We're in lockdown until we're told otherwise. And we're in lockdown until we're taken out of lockdown by protocol and by the things we read, law enforcement. We also learned that that may be something we need to revisit. Because we could have had young people and adults in lockdown caught up in corners. And you would be hearing about what we've heard in other situations across the country, people not being able to go to the restroom or being traumatized having to sit in a corner for 8 hours. Because law enforcement, as we remember, there were helicopters and law enforcement in our community doing other things all night. So there's some things we can think about and review as a school community. But the coordination of communications is something I'm thinking much about. How do we do that when we're coordinating with multiple agencies who frankly aren't talking to one another, who have the capacity or the tools to talk to one another, and everyone expecting for the superintendent to know what's happening. So that's something we learned. I just want to know, thank you, because the same questions you have are the same ones I have. But I think we do need to also recognize some small successes. We, as a school community, went into lockdown and we kept folks safe. Now, all the other things we can work on together as a community and get better at. And I appreciate the patience and the love and the commitment shown by folks from multiple school buildings, multiple school communities as we navigated something that I hope we will never ever see again. And with that, something else I hope we will never ever see again is us having to implement testing protocols for something that's other than instructional teaching and learning. So with that, I'm going to bring Carrie Burke on to talk about how we're providing help and screening testing in the midst of a global pandemic. Carrie, thank you for joining.
Thank you. It's very good to be here. Please let me know if you can't hear me. I've had a little trouble with audio today. I'm going to talk about the 2 testing programs that we're currently conducting in the school district. I'm going to begin with symptomatic testing, which was launched in September 23rd to be exact. And this is a program that we're doing in partnership with Cuga Medical Center. And what it consists of is when students attend school and they begin to feel unwell during the course of the school day and they report to the nurse's office. And after screening, it's decided that the student needs to be dismissed home and requires a COVID test in order to return to school. a negative test in order to return to school. We have the ability now to collect that sample before the student leaves the building. We implemented this program for a number of reasons. One, to attend to the amount of school that some students were missing because of their inability to access testing. Although we have a wonderful, wonderful partner in Cayuga Medical Center, the hours at the mall, which is the primary testing site in our community, can be limiting. Oftentimes appointments are only available as late as 4 o'clock or even 4:30, and on weekends, again, limited availability. So we're very happy to have this resource accessible to us. Since we've started, we've collected samples, 332 samples to date, and the vast majority of those samples have come back negative. I don't have the exact test positivity rate, but I can get that to you at a later date. Our second program, which is a much larger program, is our screening testing program. We're doing that in partnership with an outside organization known as Affinity Empowering. It's a federally funded program through Health and Human Services. And we started partnering with Affinity shortly after we became aware of their existence before the first week of school. We launched testing October 21st. And since that time, we've collected samples for over 2,000 samples, 2,075 samples across the 12 buildings. We've completed testing in all 12 buildings twice now, and we just started yesterday with our third cycle of testing, again, across all 12 buildings. Our test positivity rate is 0.2%. That's 0.2%, 0.2%. And across the district, we have approximately 30% of students consented to participate. And by building, that can really vary. I believe the highest engagement rate or rate of consent is somewhere around 57 or 58%. And I believe on the lower end, it's closer to 16%. So we have very good participation. And one of the things I really, really love and appreciate about the program is not only the additional layer of protection it affords our school community with respect to COVID, but the people that we've engaged in this process. You may not be aware that we have a wonderful, wonderful team of retired personnel who are staffing this by and large. They include retired principals, retired nurses, and retired teachers, as well as some parents who have come on board as employees. So they have a wonderful engagement and relationship with the students as they participate in the screening testing program. So I'm sure you have a number of questions, so I'm going to pause after all the information I just shared.
Questions from Adam, others? Grace, go ahead.
Did you say like how many the percentage of students that have been tested out of the people who consented for the test?
Not sure that Carrie could hear, but
I believe the question was how many students have participated out of those who've consented? Is that accurate?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. So participation really varies by building. There are a couple things to note. One is that when students are consented, they always have the right of refusal. So even at the time of testing, we have some very young students who, when we've approached about participating in testing, which consists of really effectively putting like a Q-tip up to the front of their nose to collect the sample, sort of balk at the idea, and so we don't take an issue with it. We do not force them to participate. So our participation rate tends to be really high in the elementary setting and less so in the secondary setting. And I don't have those exact figures in front of me, but they can certainly vary by building. So it's closer probably to 100% in most elementary settings. And at the secondary, those figures are probably, again, they're going to vary by building, but anywhere from like 50 to 80%.
I have a quick question. So you said when a student is symptomatic, they report to the nurse's office. So we've talked before and we're grappling with our the nationwide shortage of nurses and school nurses. So has that been a problem with getting the test done for symptomatic students?
It has. To be perfectly honest, on some days we don't have the ability to sample students we are dismissing home. But we are working hard using the available substitute nurses to make sure that there are nurses in buildings, in every building most days. But it hasn't been the case yet this school year, where we have certainly a couple of buildings where we've been struggling with staffing as far as nursing is concerned.
Thanks. And then, so a student who's symptomatic and doesn't get tested before being sent home, then the family's in the situation of trying to schedule a test through at the mall site or elsewhere. And where else? I know you can get it tested urgent care, but my experience with that is like you got to be there first thing in the morning. And where else can people get tested?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, certainly pharmacies are doing testing. A number of the pharmacies, I believe Walgreens, Kinney Drugs, potentially CVS are doing testing as well. And urgent cares, as you mentioned. There were some primary care practices doing it. And I don't know if they still are, so it really can vary. And of course, the other thing that doesn't necessarily facilitate a return to school, because we do require what's called a PCR, or diagnostic test, in order to return to school. But there's more widely available now at this point, the rapid tests, which are really helpful for assessing whether someone could be COVID positive. It's not an absolute, right? It still requires follow-up or confirmation testing, but those are more widely available in pharmacies across the county.
Thanks.
Hey, Gary, this is Elvis. I have a question. Are there individual elementary schools that seem to have a lower percentage of parents who are agreeing to give us the permission to test their kids? I mean, you mentioned the number overall, but we got 8 elementary schools. Is there any distinctions amongst them?
I mean, I would carry
Yeah,
I don't know that we need to name them, but you know, there's different populations throughout the district, correct? And so there is variability, I would think. But go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. Some of what contributes to it too, a number of things, I imagine. There are some school sites and communities where families may already have access to screening testing. For example, the caregivers or parents may work at an employer that is offering testing or requiring it of their employees. So yeah, I think at some school sites, I'm sure families maybe not feel as compelled to participate or be involved because they have access to testing elsewhere. But there certainly is variability across our school sites.
I guess that was a follow-up question. It wasn't thank you, Rob, for interjecting. It wasn't putting you on the spot. The follow-up question was going to be, in those schools, are we involving teachers? Because we know what we do, robocall, messages, letters. Teachers are the people who have the most intimate relationship with our kids. And have they been involved in spreading the information about how this is going to work?
That's a great question. That would be something to ask probably building administrators, but I will tell you, teachers are involved to the extent that they're participating in testing, and maybe that's something I didn't highlight earlier, but building staff can participate in testing in the buildings, and they have been. So that's been incredibly helpful as well. In addition to being able to offer testing to students, we can offer it to staff in the building. So teachers are certainly aware of the program. There is always more we can do, honestly, around communications with respect to this issue. And every week that we are conducting testing, I am seeing the numbers increase. So I imagine if we were to have this conversation again in 4 weeks or even 8 weeks, that the numbers of persons consented for testing in each building would continue to change, would continue to increase, because that's been the trend.
Thank you.
Carrie, can you explain, when you're talking about testing and symptomatic testing, and what the nurses can and can't do. Why do some tests require nursing and other tests do not require a nurse to do it?
Thank you for that question. It largely depends on our laboratory partner. So Cayuga Medical Center, the symptomatic testing program operates under their laboratory license. And as they've outlined their current testing protocols, sampling is done by a nurse. And I think when you travel, for example, to the mall site and have sampling done there, you may have someone who's not a nurse confirming your personal information. And then the person who's actually collecting your sample and handling it is a nurse. So that's a function of their particular laboratory license. The group that we're working with through Affinity Empowering, it's a lab actually based in Massachusetts. Our samples get overnighted to a lab in Framingham, Massachusetts. And so we're operating that program with another laboratory partner under a different laboratory license. And so even though the tests are very similar in nature and they both are PCR or diagnostic tests, and the sampling is very similar, it's a matter of laboratory protocol.
That reminds me of another question. So the screening testing, you just said it's overnighted to a lab in Mass. So the results come back how quickly? Is it consistent in how quickly they come back?
Yeah, it has been fairly consistent. We're a number of weeks into this now. Our experience has been about 36 hours. So for example, having done screening testing, for example, yesterday at a school site, not long ago, we got results. So it's about 36 hours from the time that samples leave the building until we get results. What our lab, or the lab that we're working with, is doing is they're running pooled samples. So with screening testing, we collect 2 samples from every individual. One goes into a pool, a large vial that holds multiple samples, and then a second one goes into each individual's own personal vial. And the benefit of this is that it allows the laboratory to turn around results pretty quickly. So when the pool is negative, we get a notice that laboratory results are in, which is typically 36 hours, and that presumes that everyone in that group is negative based on that pooled sample result. Getting individual results can take a little longer, sometimes even later in the evening or the next morning, we'll have those results. So if we have a pooled sample that tests positive, for example, the lab then has to run all of the individual samples in that pool in order to determine who the positive case is. So our experience to date has been about 36 hours for pooled results, and then sometimes a little longer than that for individual sample results.
I have another question that isn't really so much about testing, but it is about our response to COVID. So I'm a part-time employee of Cornell, so I got a email today that was a message about what the university is encouraging, asking, expecting for students and staff during and following the Thanksgiving holiday. So, and maybe this is more a question for Dr. Brown, but, are we communicating with families and students about, what we would like them to do over this holiday and when they return in order to prevent spread in the community?
Yes, thanks for that question, Moira. We have done nothing any different than we do any other day, other than stressing the layers of protection that we hope folks use not only in our schools, but in our community. Frankly, I was attempting not to confuse folks. There were school districts who put out this week their request and their requirement for unvaccinated students not to return and to quarantine next week, if traveling, or just simply if you're an unvaccinated. So from my perspective, I just want to stay consistent with what we've always been saying and not to confuse folks with any new communication, knowing that other school districts are requiring certain things that are much more exclusive than we want to be at this time.
if you go to South Carolina, get tested, Dr. Brown, is that what?
Well, it's just being unvaccinated. And they're saying they want young people to quarantine when returning from, so yeah, in addition to traveling.
So that's just unvaccinated from food.
From COVID, yes, let me be clear. And I'll share that.
Right. Yeah. Mildred, anything else? Anything high, any other questions for Carrie?
Okay, Rob, I think.
You goody?
I think we may be able to let her continue with her evening.
Thanks, Carrie. Well, testing will continue, Dr. Brown, correct? And we'll have Thanksgiving, we'll come back, and then we'll make it to that midwinter break, which everybody needs as much as they need Thanksgiving break. So we're, as soon as we're done here, everybody can go on a break. So I think, Amanda, if we want to,
I have 3 slides, Rob.
3 slides,
I am
Amanda.
going for it.
And I think we can do that. And but it's interesting to talk about funding for extracurriculars and curriculars, and that's what we do. So.
Right, and I have to say thank you to the student reps, you know, for asking questions. I think, you know, for us to be able to prepare snippets of information that can then be shared to the public is a real education tool, right? It's always good to sort of have chunkable information that we put out there. So this is greatly appreciated. For those who don't know, I'm Amanda Verb. I'm the Chief Operations Officer for the district. Trisha's going to help me out with the slides. Like I said, there are 3, and this isn't, you know, an in-depth budget presentation. It's just really an overview of sort of the law and what we follow in terms of why we fund athletics, which it happens after school, differently from clubs or extra class activities that also happen after school. And they really have 2 very different sort of guidelines here. So the athletics, when you look at the New York State Education website, that's what NYSED stands for, if you don't know. You look under the area of curriculum and instruction, athletics is actually listed and has guidelines in actually New York State Education Department as part of physical education, athletics and coaching. That budget each year, we meet with the athletic director as sort of the steward of that program, but there are tremendous numbers of stakeholders that the athletic director would meet with to gather information. We have contractual obligations for what the coaching costs would be. We have contractual obligations for any assistance, right? We have connections with our transportation department. We have connections with our facilities department. And so that entity really has a lot of feedback in terms of building that budget. So the athletics budget, although there's line items for it, it also feeds into both transportation and facilities as well, because we have to maintain and transport them. The Commissioner of Education has regulations that essentially say that when we audit the athletics program, it's part of the general fund audit, and it would show up in all of the other line items like instruction, you know, and special education, and that's part of that audit as well. And then students, really, you know, there are opportunities for students to try out, but then unfortunately there are also limits to what athletics can provide to students in terms of the numbers for teams and what the coaches deem appropriate. So there are sort of limitations on athletics. Clubs and extra classroom activities, you didn't get the trend that that's sort of district sponsored with athletics and sort of mandated by state ed. There are things that extra class and clubs have to follow, but it really, the whole spirit around extra class and clubs is that it is generated by students. Students come up with the ideas. They say, look, we'd really love to have this kind of a group that comes together, like-minded, similar interests, right? Things that we want to explore. Sometimes that's done by an adult who has sort of heard from young people, and so it can go from both ways. And we provide, you know, an opportunity. And this first goal is actually taken from a pamphlet that guides the way clubs are run, right? And it says, provide schools with the opportunity to teach pupils good business procedures. It's actually the spirit of clubs. Through participation in handling such funds and operating a successful business. So clubs are standalones. You actually are required to have a treasurer, a student treasurer, and also an adult treasurer. They're supposed to be trained, and you're actually supposed to keep books, and you're supposed to keep track of money coming in and money going out. And when you fundraise, you're supposed to charge for sales tax when you sell goods.
Supposed to.
You actually by law must, and we will get audited about that if we don't, and so we try to bring our auditors in to train student and adult treasurers. And if you notice on that second bullet there, it says funds raised other than by taxation or through charges of a board of education, or by in the same name of a school, student body, or any subdivision thereof. So you're really an independent entity, right? So districts we can transfer monies. Dr. Brown, we've actually used, Dr. Brown has had funds in the past in his budget that are essentially discretionary funds that we were able to, when Code Red Robotics, I think, went to a big event, like we covered the transportation for that.
St. Louis, right?
That's right.
Big cost.
Yep, and so we absolutely can support, and we do support clubs, and I'll show you the next slide about that. The clubs themselves have a separate audit process. Those are audited separately from the general fund. So you're gonna see two different types of audits. And the last slide here, I just did a side-by-side for you to just sort of see, kind of again, just a few other differences maybe between clubs and athletics, and also to summarize what we talked about. So, athletics, because it is part of the school district, like I said, it's tax exempt, whereas clubs, they're not. You actually have to pay taxes when you go and participate in things, or if you were to buy your lunches, you'd have to pay the tax on that, where we have tax exempt forms for athletics. Again, this idea of like student driven versus kind of district driven, or NISFA driven, or state ed driven, the sales tax piece. And then finally, I did give you a little bit, just to show you how we do sustain clubs in the budget. You'll see it's very different from GF stands for general fund, the budget for athletics, but we do have a general fund portion of our budget that goes to clubs because we are contractually obligated to pay the stipends of the folks that manage it, the advisors, right? We want students to manage it too, but we pay for advisors to also be there to support. And so we run like the LACS program, right? All of your trips and things are run as a club. Right? After school, I know we have many more than Code Red. I mean, you have so many. If you look at our audit report, you can see by building, in all of the secondary buildings, all the clubs that are happening. And you can see what their budgets are when they close the year and then when they open the year. So this is just a little bit of an overview for you all, okay, to just sort of answer that question. That was really fantastic. 3 slides, Dr. Brown,
And the extra classroom report is always interesting every audit season.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
It really is great. And those are all on our website. If you ever wanted to see, you just go into our website and under, I think it's audited financials, anything it's called extra class in that world, which is the club piece, right? And general fund is where athletics would be.
I mean, it seemed like probably 2 personnel reports ago, there was a long list of club
advisors.
Club listed advisors and stipends, and calculated differently. Some go dollar amount per club, and others per hour, and it's all and it's all good. I mean, certainly for the board and for the district, the more opportunities to be involved in something, part of the day and augmenting the day.
Absolutely.
We're all for it.
And they all tie into curriculum and instruction, whether or not stated, listed on their website, right? Like all of these things, whether it supports your mental health, it builds your community, it builds your sense of place, it gives you a sense of belonging, or it supports what you're learning in the classroom. Those are all valuable things, right? And that's why, I think the club funding, there is a fluidity. If there were things that were occurring and you really were struggling to fundraise, you can always talk to us and we can try to figure out the mechanism by which to get funding there if necessary.
and you didn't list fine and performing arts, but that's, you know, that's another.
It's like athletics, so
Right.
fine and performing arts would be treated like athletics, except that when, I think a lot of the musicals are a club because they're charging
Oh, it's,
for
yeah,
performances, yep.
combination, absolutely.
Yep, so you'll see both, yeah.
And from time to time, we see the metrics of, you know, how many students are involved with the variety of activities, and initiative from board years ago was to increase the opportunity, increase the number of kids that are engaged in some way and somehow,
That's right.
So whatever we can do to keep encouraging that.
Right.
We, like 100% graduation rate, our goal is always 100% kids are doing something. Whatever it is,
That's right.
doing something. It could be a job after school or whatever, but, so.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Eldred, you know, I think we're
coming to the end here.
coming to the end, and Eldred, it says, you know, we're going to like it was a review of,
Any updates are?
yeah, but we're not gonna do that, Eldred, right?
No.
Well, Eldred, I mean, well, you know, it's you and me making
We're
so
making
committee updates, so I
And
think,
Sean has already bailed out.
right, wouldn't it be better to like have like more school board members available for their committee updates? It's a busy night, so there's a bunch of folks that are occupied with jobs and or other things. We're getting through whatever we can. There's another item here, the resolution to authorize an expenditure, but Sean, I think, had a slide up because of reactions to this and that. But I think we'll bounce that to another time. So Eldred, what do you think?
I think we should bring this August meeting to a close. But before we do that, I do want to just point out to the students, we are aware of what transpired tonight. I don't think we missed it. We saw your reactions. There will come a point that we'll try to get together and we'll try to debrief on this, because it could happen again. So we need to have a constructive plan that allows all of us, because you guys are right with us as people, so we're doing it.
Well, not to get into too much, but public comment is public comment. People can come and speak. They have 3 minutes, as long as there's a few rules they have to follow. And there's issues when folks don't want to go along to get along. And but we hear everyone and take it all in. And upcoming dates of importance, Eldred, I'm thinking maybe how about Thanksgiving, and how about everybody
Stuffing.
taking a break? No school tomorrow, Dr. Brown, right?
We are on break.
I have to work tomorrow and I have to work Friday, but that's okay. I don't need a break. I'm fine, really, I'm fine. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for getting us to this point, meaning students and staff and exec team, and hanging in there, and go enjoy a few days. Go outside. Go play with a cat, or Jethro's waiting for me at home, so I have to go home and see Jethro. But see family, see friends, and enjoy the day.
Thank you.